Live from your ESG Hanukkah Jesus Bush. It's a Business Pants Friday show here at December 20th Studios.
Is that
featuring AnalystHole Matt Moscardi? Yeah, what?
Is the Jesus Bush related to George Bush?
Sure, might as well be. On today's yearly wrap-up, everything we think, everything.
I like that we pretend like we've
Everything.
done this every year. Do we do this every year?
Yeah, of course we do this every year.
You know, it has been 6 years of
Oh.
us doing this.
Well,
It's
I
actually
think that
shocking.
It makes sense because when I'm looking back at everything that we think and do and cover, I think we're starting to get it. We're starting to understand the world a bit better.
I told you in pre-production that my process for this was I pulled every single headline that you pull. You know, there are 12,000 headlines that you pulled over the course of the year. I did all the ones that I chose for each of our stories. Assholiest, we have Goodliest, we have Headliniest, and Story of the Year. I pulled them all. I looked at them all, and I just picked the ones that triggered me most. And there was a lot. There was a lot that triggered me.
I should leave room for yours then, because all I did was I only looked at the winners in my category and some of the other categories.
That
just
was
the winners,
smarter.
Just the winners.
That was smarter.
And I know that sometimes we make odd choices as winners. Maybe we're trying to be funny. Maybe we're trying to be sardonic, sarcastic. I don't know, but
Sardonic, good word.
so I don't. So I was actually kind of limited in what I could choose. Like for instance, I thought there'd be 17,000 Elon Musk headlines, but I think we intentionally avoid that.
Yeah, we hate having him win anything.
So yeah, so, although he is, of course, one of my stories of the year. So you want to just get to it?
He basically won everything. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. All right.
Our show today is being sponsored
Oh, you're going to talk over your music.
by FreeFlowAnalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power, connections, and performance for free. Actually, FreeFlow Analytics was one of my winners of the year, I believe.
Yeah, we'll come back to them. They
Get to
won
that later.
a lot.
Get to that
for me,
later.
yeah.
All right, I actually think my category is pretty straightforward. Although, in honor of a yearly wrap up, if I miss something, let me know. I don't care. You can vote if you want to add something. You want to vote on it. Fine. You don't care.
I don't.
Here we go. This is in chronological order. And again, these might not be the stories of the year for if you're just into business news, or you're just into the market, or you're just into corporate governance. But I'm
Don't
trying to
sell
cover
yourself
all.
short.
Okay.
These are the stories.
These are the stories of the year. The first one happened right out of the gate. Started the year with a bang in 2024, and I think this actually was a great tone setter for the year. I think I give my credit due to ExxonMobil.
Oh,
For coming out,
I already don't like
for
this.
coming out in January. And what do? They sued two of their investors. The headline is Exxon sues two ESG investors. They sued Follow This and Arjuna Capital because they were doing what everyone else does and putting up a shareholder proposal. But Exxon took it to a new level this year, and they sued, which I think, knowing who won the election in November, I guess his name is Elon Trump, I think his name is. I think this is sort of the perfect tone setter for the year, right? ExxonMobil just suing its own shareholders for acting like shareholders.
I like the year that, like, the icing at the end of the year where Ohio just outlawed doing governance, right? Like they basically said the Ohio pension system is no longer allowed to influence a company. That's Exxon sued investors who had shares and did the same thing they always do.
For exercising a mechanism in place for shareholders.
A legal mechanism for shareholders
that they've been doing for
to
years.
vote.
That they've been doing for years.
For decades.
Yeah.
And Exxon didn't like it anymore and
they
threw a
sued.
big diaper fit, and now Ohio just made it illegal. That's a good round year.
Ugh.
I don't like that.
That's my first story of the year. My second story of the year is the big one that came out of the Delaware Chancery. Excuse me. Here's the headline: Judge voids Elon Musk's unfathomable $56 billion Tesla pay package. Even when I reread that, it's jaw dropping. $56 billion.
Well, I mean, like, just to put a bow on that story, judge rejects it, voids it.
Kathleen McCormick.
the board decides that the board, who was basically the centerpiece of why it got voided.
Yeah,
because they are incompetent and in his pocket.
The judge essentially ruled that he controlled the board.
Correct, right? And they didn't. They did it in terms of social independence. They had no social independence, and increasingly they had no economic independence from Elon Musk and Tesla. And then they decided, you know what? We're going to take the entire decision by the judge and make it the appendix of our proxy and put the same pay package up for a vote, because this time investors can't say they didn't know. We're going to use our own incompetence as evidence that you now know you should vote for it.
Perfect foreshadowing for the November 2024 presidential elections, right?
It's really shocking.
Like Trump failed the first time. He committed all these crimes. He's a horrible person. But let's put him back. Let's put him back up again. Let's see what happens.
So we're just going to say, sure.
We're going to tell a different story. We're going to spin a tale just like Elon did. In fact, Elon ended up trying to pay some of his shareholders to vote for him, right? And as he did
with the election.
The election in Pennsylvania, he had some kind of bogus lottery or something like that. So again, another perfect tone setter was this whole event around his pay. The story is almost wrapped up because just a few weeks ago, she actually re-verified that decision. But there still is room, I guess, to appeal this decision. And let's not forget, Matt, that what Elon Musk also did, proving his power and might at Tesla, was he immediately re-domesticated the company from Delaware to Texas, right? He changed the headquarters because he was angry at Delaware, the jurisdiction which is the most corporate-friendly jurisdiction known to human beings on the planet.
It's the jurisdiction that literally every corporation is in.
Yes.
The craziest part about it to me is the investors voted yes again. They basically approved both the move and the pay package, and the directors, who by the judge's own decision were part of the incompetent the decision of approving it in the first place.
Again, I think this became this election at Tesla was a bit of foreshadowing too, because I don't know that it was really about the facts and details of the matter. I think it was really about a deeper kind of struggle, right? Like all the Elon, Tesla, tech bros, the Bitcoin bros, whatever you want to call them, they've been in an existential fight all year against scolding women, against regulators, against people telling them what to do. And I don't think that they actually stopped to think, what does it mean as shareholders to give him $56 billion? I think they're just a existential struggle.
But they're not the majority of the shareholders. What the surprise was, after they passed it, the second time, was that it wasn't like the tech bros and the retail only who are voting on their feels.
That was the narrative, though, yeah.
That was the narrative. But BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and monstrous institutional investors with teams of stewardship people who are supposed to be combing through data and understand this stuff. They're supposed to be exercising their fiduciary duty. They all also voted for it.
And
right?
that is intertwined with this story, because a part of that story, one of the people that this group of investors sees as this great scolder and Mr. Woke is Larry Fink from BlackRock. Yeah. Larry Fink actually, 42% of shareholders at BlackRock voted against his pay package, a higher amount that voted against Elon Musk's pay package. So there was just a bizarre struggle, existential struggle this year of what I don't know. But yeah,
what did it prove? Was that the market, which is supposed to be this machine of efficiency, allocating capital, doing their due diligence, using all the data they absolutely can to make every decision, and they're supposed to make rational decisions. That is
casino
the whole
time.
premise.
It's playtime.
It is all kabuki theater.
Yeah.
It is just And most of the
controlling
market is
the
controlled
narrative.
by dudes, and most of it is a narrative. It
Yeah.
all is narrative driven, and they are just voting however they feel. It's all gut and feel, and I don't like this, but I do like that. I like that guy. I don't like this guy. There is no such thing as market efficiency. And if anybody in the market, like a hedge fund manager or any of these assholes, comes up to you and says, like, oh, I made a lot of money because I make a lot of rational, emotionless decisions, and it's all about allocating capital. No, it's not. These votes prove that it's not. You don't use all available information. You don't make rational decisions that are in your best interest. You make the decisions that are expedient, and a guy, right? Like, and you have feels.
Because also, don't forget, Tesla still is merely a car company. Basically, it's not.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's not SpaceX. It's not X, where we think all of the AI is going to go, right? Isn't he eventually turning X into some AI machine?
Isn't that the other theme? The other theme is like access to power, right? You vote yes here because you're worried, A, the stock might go down if I vote no, and that I own the stock. I don't want it to go down. But B, I also want those SpaceX shares, and I want to be in on the ground floor when he starts his XAI. And if I vote no here, how do I get him on the phone later?
But people are fighting ESG tooth and nail because they don't believe it represents some kind of basic fundamental to how a company operates. So where are the basic fundamentals to supporting Tesla? Like
there are none. Fundamental analysis is a make-believe. Yeah.
All right, that's the second story of the week. Story of the year. Sorry, the third big story of the year is everything Boeing.
Oh no.
Boeing being an important company for us here at Free Flow, because it sort of launched a lot of our ideas and theories, right? Basically around the original, the plane crashes of what, 2000? How long ago was it?
18, 19, yeah, 18, 19.
And they what they did is they changed their culture by sort of elevating other parts of their culture to take over. They didn't actually they promised to clean house. They promised to bring in a new culture, and what they did is just sort of promote people who are already on the board, and they didn't do anything. We screamed, we fought about it for years. We thought this is the one area, this is the one case study where you should really listen to us. And it all came to 2024. I'll just read you some of the headlines out of Boeing. First of all, this was the year that Calhoun finally stepped down, Dave Calhoun. So we started with this headline. Boeing CEO says it was 100% his own decision to resign. So
sure, yeah.
So even until everything has been happening, they still, I guess, couldn't get rid of him. He decided to leave. And then there was Boeing's CEO's tearful apology. Remember, he went in front of the Senate and he cried and he apologized to people, and the families of the people who died in that plane were actually yelling at him. They were screaming at him at this hearing. And then Boeing also pleaded guilty to fraud in fatal 737 MAX crashes. Boeing named a new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, and finally Boeing factory workers went on strike for the first time in 2008. A huge strike that lasted for months, that ended in a pretty favorable contract for workers and a lot of lost production time and lost cash and lost everything else for Boeing.
But again, in that is the same story, which is that Dave Calhoun was granted a $42 million exit package, and investors approved not only that, but they reelected him to the board so that he could see out the rest of his term as he saw fit. And every director on the board got reelected. So investors are basically complicit in every major story.
Despite
they voted
everything
for
I
the
just
Exxon
said.
board. They voted for Musk and the Musk board, and they voted for Boeing and the Boeing board. To me, the backstop of all of it, regardless of like the social implications of these things, are that investors are utterly fucking indifferent.
Well, say what you will about Exxon. Maybe you agree with the CEO, with them suing the ESG investors. Say what you will about Tesla. Maybe you think, Elon Musk clearly knows how to run a meme stock. He clearly knows how to make money where no one should be making money. But Boeing, you would think just as a protest vote, you would vote everybody out. Knowing they're not all going to resign. Maybe a couple resign. Maybe there's a few changes. But just as a minimum, as a protest vote, you're just like, guys, this is This
they
is an
can't
absolute
run
shit
the company.
show that's been going on for years. We've become the laughingstock of American
For
governance.
more than a decade, and they're 1% of U.S. GDP. That's and you can't run this company well. Yeah,
and the reason why, again, one of the reasons why we kept talking about this is that it set up the perfect storm for a very successful labor strike, right? Because they knew they had Boeing where they wanted them, right? There was really just no leverage. Boeing had to essentially give them most of what they wanted, not everything. They didn't give them the pensions they were seeking, but
Kelly Ortberg did tell them to stop bitching at the water cooler and get back to work.
And he did claim, I think the first day of the strike, he basically claimed.
They claimed victory.
He claimed victory, like right before the strike maybe happened. Anyway, let's get off of Boeing. The fourth story of the year, I had to wedge it in here somewhere. It feels important, especially with the rise of Elon Musk, who now I'm even seeing reports the last few days that is he our shadow president? Is this guy basically pulling strings already? But the headline from November, of course, Trump's victory adds record $64 billion to wealth of richest top 10. Now, that was just the day after the election. That number has mushroomed to many hundreds of billions since. But I don't even know what to say about this.
I don't want to dwell.
On the ascent
Trump.
of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy alongside Elon.
Ramaswamy's a hanger on. The reporting is Elon Musk made the greatest investment in the history of investments. He spent $250 million or something, like $200 million to get Trump elected,
and he's about to do it with the Tories, the Conservatives in the United Kingdom. And he just came out, I think today or yesterday, supporting the far right party in Germany, which many people in Europe are calling basically the new Nazis.
Yeah, they're Nazis.
Not even just neo-Nazis, like the new Nazi party. So this guy, he's not going to stop with America.
I'm not sure I understand exactly what's in people's heads that they think because that guy said a thing that we should listen to that thing, but it keeps happening. And again, I'm
that
not
guy
sure
meaning Elon or Trump?
Yeah, I'm also not sure Trump gets elected without Elon.
Right? I don't think he does.
It's unclear.
I think it led him a stability and credibility, even though there's no one more unstable than Elon. But I think for young men especially, I think it was very important.
Which, if that becomes the narrative in 2025, not to get into predictions, which we're going to do when we come back in 2025, if the narrative moves to, well, Trump didn't really win, Elon won it for Trump, and
that's going to cause a war. It's going to cause a battle. Yeah,
there's no way Trump doesn't start pushing back on Trump. Musk.
Everything we've learned about these two petulant assholes that we've covered over the years, and we mostly cover Elon Musk. We're not a political show, but they both start fights with everybody, and they sue everybody. Well, I mean, even now there are headlines, of course, of Elon still battling with the SEC. He's battling with Sam Altman at OpenAI. He's just a battler, and of course, we know this is going to end in some kind of an ugly bro battle.
It just fights everyone, and it's going to end in World War III. I can't wait.
Well, don't say that, please. Say that for our prediction show after
already
New Year's.
Tired. We're on story 4.
All right, finally.
I'm already tired.
Let me get to the fifth story of the year. This is a late entry that no one could have predicted, unfortunately. And this, of course, is the headline is the murder of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. Again, he's not the CEO of a publicly traded company. He's actually a named executive officer of United Health Group, but he was, I don't remember.
We are the only ones obsessed with that.
Yeah,
fact.
I know. He was killed in December. Was it that recent? Okay.
Yeah, it was December.
All right. So that's the fifth story of the year.
It is a fitting end to the year because especially when the story right before it is the richest 10 people made $64 billion just on the Trump election. That gap, right? The murder
that
of Brian
was just
Thompson
the day after,
might actually be the beginning of the revolution, the income inequality revolution.
Well, you know what's confusing about this too, Matt, is that Trump has already taken both sides of this issue. First, he's calling people scum for being against CEOs, right? It's very un-American to be against CEOs. But then he's also calling out executives at the healthcare companies that he thinks are making way too much money.
Oh, come on.
Right, so I'm just saying, like, everyone is kind of having both sides on these
Except
issues,
for
right?
like the state of New York, which is creating a hotline for executives to call in when they feel threatened. But where's my hotline? Like, I got to call 911 like every other jamook.
Well,
like
there was a headline we covered last week, I believe, or this week actually, I think, that said basically it's thoughts and prayers for school children who are murdered, time after time again in this country. But when a CEO gets killed, yes, the government's
there's
they
bodyguards,
break out all the stuff, bodyguards,
regulators,
security, everything.
Everything.
Yeah. So I don't know how are you gonna choose? Is this up to you? Do you get to choose?
I think we both get a vote here.
All right. I don't even know where to go here.
I want to put this out to I'm going to actually, over the course of the next week, I'm going to put these out on LinkedIn as polls.
No.
And Blue Sky. So
No,
answer
I don't want their thoughts.
Here's what I think.
Yeah.
I think the Trump victory, the Elon, the Boeing, they're all kind of the same. I think the murder of Brian Thompson is actually the beginning of next year, right?
Sure.
Like I actually feel so. I'm actually going to go with Exxon. I'm going to go.
Okay. What?
I'm going to go with Exxon
Really?
suing.
Well, it is a great tone setter. Yeah.
But look, think about like
Exxon.
what that was, right?
Yeah.
Exxon,
I don't want to think about what it was.
Exxon is a giant, mature U.S. company, very traditionally conservative.
Sure.
They
Blue
hate
chip.
anybody who says anything about climate change. They always have. They've been burying research around climate change for years, decades. Fine, whatever. This was a escalation. It was like a nuclear option escalation that they took to they targeted incredibly small investors that Arjuna Capital, we're talking about like a couple $100 million in assets under management. They are targeting
Seems like a lot to
the
me.
little person, right? Like this was
they knew they control them. Once it enters the arena of legal battle, they knew they could control them with cash.
Arjuna came out. Follow This ended up getting cut from the lawsuit because of jurisdictional issues. They are actually based out of the Netherlands or something.
Yes.
But Arjuna basically said, "We swear we'll never do it again. We'll retract this."
They
forget
gave
it.
up.
They cowered and caved almost immediately.
But they probably did not have the money
to
to fight this, though. Yeah.
But B, in the way that sort of like the little guy does when the massive monolithic corporation is standing over them with the weight of all their power, you cower immediately. And Exxon said, "We accept. Also, we're going to continue with the lawsuit." They continued with the lawsuit to hammer their point home. It is like the moment when these companies, when the sort of like market system is hammering you with, "We truly don't give a fuck what you think. We really don't think. We don't care what's right. We don't care about data. We're not interested in that. For the rest of this year, we are going to hammer you with whatever we want, which is make as much money as possible at all times. We don't care who the people are. It doesn't matter. We're gonna step on your throat."
Of course, fast forward 10 months later, and Exxon is on the left of Donald Trump saying, "Please don't abandon the Paris Agreement."
They're saying all sorts of shit. So that's what I'm going to vote for. What's your vote?
That's a stupid vote.
Oh, how dare you!
I don't know what to make of that vote. I don't know what to make of that vote as the story of the year.
You picked it as the story of the year.
I think it's a contender. I got to go with. I have to. Maybe it's just it's overly sensational. I gotta go. Or maybe there's a recency bias. It just happened.
Yeah, it's recency bias.
But I think the most important thing you said is I think it does set the tone for next year, which I think is what is going to make ultimately the story of the year this year.
No.
So I don't know how we break the tie, but I'm going to go with the murder of
We're breaking the tie on LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Follow us on LinkedIn and Blue Sky.
For all your nerdy friends and fans on LinkedIn, it's perfect for that.
There's only 4 of them. Yeah.
No, because they'll be into the Exxon suing investors. They like that kind of nerdy stuff.
All right, let's do Goodliest of the year.
All right, again, I stuck to the theme here and only picked winners. I don't know. Did you also only pick winners?
I picked.
Only winners from this category.
Yes, they were all winners, but I also picked. There was one that was not a winner that I was like, I have to include it.
And I think that I would have repeated some of yours, so I decided to not pick them as well. I'm going to go quickly on this. We already talked for 25 minutes. Only one I probably should add a little bit of color because people probably forgot. But the first one to me is a great one. The headline is 2,000 senior women win biggest victory possible in landmark climate case. So this was 2,000 Swiss women won landmark European case proving that government climate inaction violates human rights. The women were part of a group called Senior Women for Climate Protection. This was a lawsuit that they filed 9 years ago, but the European Court of Human Rights ruled that Switzerland had not acted urgently to achieve climate targets, leading victims who were mostly in their 70s to suffer physically and emotionally while potentially placed at risk of dying.
See, I love this story. Love it. Also, the government rejected it.
Is that right? Did I miss the the coda? Okay.
Switzerland refused to accept the High Court's ruling.
Right.
They actually just
That's
said,
true. That was not a Swiss court. You're right. It was a EC court.
It was a
European court.
European Convention on Human Rights.
Yeah.
So it was based on an EU court, and they just said we don't agree. That's all they did.
Well, Switzerland is known for being neutral. They don't get involved. They'll take the stolen Nazi money and art, but they're not going to get involved other than taking.
Seems like not neutral.
They'll take it and store it, but they're not going to get involved. So I'm sorry I missed that part of the story because That's
why I didn't choose.
Made me feel good. The next three speak for themselves. I'll go quickly. Minnesota capital St. Paul makes history as first large U.S. city with all-female council.
Yeah,
it's basically it's an equivalent to our boards here at Free Flow Analytics. Delta paying $1.4 billion in profit sharing payments to employees, and finally, I included just for giggles, 42% of shareholders vote against BlackRock CEO Larry Fink's pay. I only included this because you're always crying and screaming about investors not doing a thing. So hey,
which
they
still didn't. 42%.
Okay, you're right. They didn't get there.
51%, right? They didn't get there. Right?
What do you got?
So congratulations.
What do you got?
All right, I have. First of all, there were a ton of stories that we covered this year in Goodliest about unions, labor movements. But I think the best sort of stakeholders rule headline was U.S. bans non-compete agreements for nearly all jobs.
Now, I also was going to pick this, and then I wondered, is this something that Trump can reverse?
Probably, but hasn't yet.
Okay, fine.
So it's still.
I don't remember
for this year.
Was this an executive order? Did this come out of the DOJ? Like, where did this come out of? Do we know? I don't remember.
I believe it came out of the Lena Khan, FTC.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I picked.
So they'll reverse it. Yeah.
First of all, I can't believe you didn't pick this. But there is a common theme here.
I did pick this, but I didn't repeat it.
We do really like women winning. Does seem to be a theme this year.
Back when Jesse and Ari were more regular participators of the show, we did spend a lot, and not just because of them. I mean, it's also something that I was into.
We love when dudes, we had our time, right? We're happy to I'm happy to step aside and let women lead everything.
But beyond
at this point,
yeah, well, that is the goal, right? Like, give up 100 years of rule and see how women fare, because I think we've had our shot.
Give them a shot.
Yeah.
Give them a shot.
But beyond that,
suck more than we did.
Beyond that, thinking of the actual tournament that happened in March and April, the women's tournament this year was just way better than the men's.
It was. So the headline was first NCAA Women's Basketball Championship surpasses men's viewership.
One of the all-time most viewed sporting events on ESPN. Yeah.
So, and now you had Caitlin Clark, who's in the WNBA.
Athlete of the year.
They are setting records
Yeah.
for viewership, attendees, and the women are pushing back saying, like, you can't pay us nothing anymore, right? Like,
Well,
you have to pay us money now because we're a big deal.
One headline I won't add here, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that I just saw a distressing headline that U.S. professional pickleball players are making more than the average
No, that's
WNBA
not
player.
good at all.
Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible.
Not
Yeah.
That's not good. I picked this one mostly because I juxtaposed with about a dozen other headlines we pulled during the year. But porn has figured this out, and for some reason, no one else has. So we hear a lot all the time about how Mark Zuckerberg and Sergey and Larry, they're complaining like, oh, we need to be regulated, regulate our AI. You need to help us, government. We don't know what we're doing. So these are like the headlines they put out. Google's search AI recommends changing your car's blinker fluid, which is a made up thing that does not exist. Researchers called for child safe AI after Alexa tells little girl to stick penny in wall socket.
Yeah.
Google's Gemini chatbot explodes at user, calling them stain on the universe and begging them to please die.
Right.
Meta's AI refuses to show Asian men with white women. In fact,
And this is one of thousands of headlines that we...
Thousands. There was a headline, someone actually killed themselves.
Yeah.
A kid killed themselves as a result of a chatbot. But porn got this.
Yeah.
A Pornhub chatbot stopped millions from searching for child abuse videos.
Millions.
How?
Millions?
Well, it means that, first of all,
crazy.
how gross.
Millions.
It's almost entirely men on these porn sites. Not exclusively, but let's say almost entirely. How gross are men, right? Like,
I didn't even know.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
What does a Pornhub chatbot even do? I don't understand that.
I think dudes sign
ask
up
for videos?
and then you ask them like, "Can you show me this thing?" Or "I would like to like talk sexy to me" or whatever.
And they're asking for child abuse videos.
And they're asking for effectively like in obtuse ways. But Pornhub, in the construction of the AI chatbot, figured out this is not okay. We do not do that. We are going to stop that. And their chatbot somehow did not tell any of the men like a way to get this. Meanwhile, we have Gemini, Google's chatbot, being like, "Why don't you stick that in a wall?" Or Alexa, "Why don't you stick that in a wall socket? Your finger." Like, look, how is it that porn has figured this out? No one else has.
These mechanisms are supposed to exist at the other data companies, but they refuse to do them, or they don't do enough of them.
They refuse.
And part of the reason is they're not held accountable for them because of Section 230. They don't get in trouble for this crap.
I just feel like it's so good that like the basest human thing, which is having sex with whoever you have sex with or whatever you have sex with, is they are the ones who figure out like, well, we have all these tech bros who are just throwing their hands in the air like, oh, I can't do it. I love that. And then last, you and I both love this headline. Study: playing Dungeons and Dragons helps autistic players in social interactions. I still love that headline. I love that.
All right, what's our Goodliest of the year?
I don't like any of your Goodliest. They don't feel like a Goodliest of the year. I actually think the Goodliest of the year is probably banning non-competes. That's probably what I think.
I was gonna go.
Seems like the realest thing.
I was leaning towards women's basketball.
Yeah, that's a close second.
But I don't know that they've come far enough, mostly because, a lot of these teams are owned by some of the same horrible men that control the market. And, they're the same billionaires that own everything else, and they're not really doing a great job sharing that wealth yet. So I feel like we're not quite there yet. That's the one that makes me feel the best. Fine, I'll go for banning non-compete. I don't really.
There we go. Yeah, fine, I don't have to put this one out as a poll because you can't.
Actually,
win
you know what?
In public.
If you put it up as a poll, I'll pick women. I'll pick women. Come on, let's move on. Let's move on.
All right, let's do this. All right, this is Assholiest of the Year. I have the biggest lift. How do I have such a
Well, you make it the biggest lift. You make it the biggest lift.
No,
you don't have to.
Humanity makes it the biggest lift. There are so many assholes to choose from. All right, so I've got 5, and I'm going to try
Thank God
to
it's only
glaze
5.
through these.
Yeah.
Okay, right?
Are these actual?
First,
are these people or things or
a
concepts?
couple are concepts, and a couple are people.
People I like. Yeah.
Here's an easy one. Sam Altman.
Sure. It's funny
right.
though. It's like after the year we've lived through, when you have a character like Elon Musk, I've been saying this forever. It does make people like Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg just not look as bad.
Well, I did
You know what I mean?
pick Musk, and I did not pick Zuckerberg on purpose. Like,
Sure.
they're almost like shoe-ins and
Obvious.
stupid. It's so obvious
Yeah.
and boring and dumb.
That's
It's
like who's your favorite person? Oh, it's God. Okay, good for you.
But Sam Altman here is, well, I picked him because
Quite a year.
in October of 2023, he got ousted, but he was back
By
on
his
the
board. By his board.
by his own board, and
Doing
then
their job.
brought back to the company. He changed the whole board, and then the new board, they added a bunch of people to it, and they added him back on the board. He's back on his own board, and now they're making it a for-profit company. It's really the ultimate sort of like tech bro-y, how dare you story. And he's back. He's back in control.
You're not my boss. I'm the boss. It's a lot like the the Jamie Dimon quote. Remember where he didn't want to work for the government because he hasn't had a boss in 20 years? So he's kind of revealing the secret of the game, right? Is that Sam Altman is his own boss. The board
He's his own boss. The board is now Brett Taylor, who worked at, was ex-Twitter chair, Salesforce founder, worked at Google, worked at Facebook, like a buddy. Yeah. Larry Summers, who once said women were unable to compete with men.
Grumpy misogynist,
Adam D'Angelo, still there,
Another
founder of Quora, former CTO of Facebook. So we've got like two people from Facebook and Larry Summers, who actually was the master of Harvard when Zuck founded Facebook. It's basically Facebook.
Yeah.
And then Susan Delman or DH, what's her, Hellman or whatever. Mm-hmm. She was on the board of Facebook at one point. Fiji Simo, who led
She scares me the most. It's she, right?
It's a she, yeah.
She scares me the most. Yeah. What did she do?
She was on the board of Facebook, but she's been all over the place.
But what was her role at Facebook?
I don't.
She led monetization at Facebook.
No, that was Fiji Simo.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Fiji Simo.
No, Fiji.
Yeah, Fiji.
She
Simo
scares me the most.
Which
is exactly what we don't need in the infancy of AI. We don't need to figure out at the same time how to make as much money possible out of it. Like that's where this whole thing is going to be steered wrong.
And now, and then Nicole Seligman, who was who basically just spent her time on boards at CBS Viacom under dictators.
I don't get her either.
They added Sam Altman to that, right? What an asshole! Like, so Sam Altman got a nod.
And again, two of the women that they got rid of were leading scholars. Researchers in the field of AI
ethics.
Actually pushing back on Sam and some of the crew there, which is the job of the board, right? I mean, to push back, to ask tough questions. Not if you've never had a boss. Okay, Sam Altman, first asshole of the year.
Number 2 is proxy voters. We've already covered all of them. Every single one.
Even the 42% voted against the Larry Fink's pay package?
Yes. The 8% that didn't is really the
So who are you specifically focusing on for proxy voters?
Look, I we already talked about Boeing. We talked about Tesla voters. But Disney shareholders were at one point selling their proxy votes online during the
that's right.
Before that shut down.
A huge proxy contest with Nelson Peltz this year.
And the economic value of that vote was buying a vote was valued at 20 cents. Well, the shares of Disney at the time were around $118. That means like a share was worth 590 times a vote.
Right.
So we care so little about the votes. We're willing to buy them for 1/590th of the share price. That's what you get for the share, you morons. McDonald's, they made Kempczynski, the CEO, the board chair. They actually made it. And you covered last week the number of McDonald's issues that they've had all year. They
basically were involved in every big headline. I actually wrestled with this. McDonald's was basically involved with every big headline of the year, including the shooter of the NEO being found in McDonald's. Donald Trump serving fries in the McDonald's, E. coli, everything was going on at McDonald's.
Bad that happened went through a McDonald's first, right? And at the same time, they named the CEO the chair of the board when he wasn't the chair.
Never should be.
They named Miles White the lead independent director.
Horrible.
Miles White, who'd been on the board for 15 years. He had almost 60% connected to the current board.
Yeah.
He had 40 loops back to the current board members, like through various companies he was on the board of. He was on the board with Steve Easterbrook, who was an unmitigated disaster, and they had to claw back money from. He's part of the Boeing board in the past, the one that okayed some of the shit decisions at Boeing. In fact, we did a whole study on lead independent directors and showed that 60% of boards that had large cap boards that had a lead independent director, those lead independent directors had been there for more than 10 years.
Make no mistake.
They couldn't even get elected in the UK because they'd be out
been there
tenured.
too long. Not independent anymore. Make no mistake.
And here, we're calling them lead independent, which is exactly what we're doing. And investors voted overwhelmingly for it. 90+% for all this.
Make no mistake, if you're an investor in a company, if the board is naming the CEO also the chair, and they're appointing a lead director who's been there forever, all they're doing is they're creating a protection around the CEO. They're creating a bubble around the CEO so that the CEO has unfettered power. That's all they're doing. Make no mistake.
But it's even more obvious than that. Almost 1/3 of the boards that have a lead independent, of the large cap U.S. boards, have a lead independent director and a CEO chair combo. Almost 1/3 of them, the CEO and the lead independent director, have both been there for 10 years or more.
Yeah.
Both. Like, we're not even pretending. We just there's no independence. We did a whole segment on appointments, not elections, how these directors get appointed. In fact,
hate that.
in 2024, Thomas Gaynor was added to the Coca-Cola board, served 10 months because he was added in 2023, served 10 full months up until 2024, and then investors voted 39% against him. Like but he'd already been there for almost a year.
Let's not forget, it's worse at classified boards where they don't have annual elections. Sometimes these directors are there for a couple of years before there's a vote on them.
2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. But that's not a new thing to this year, but I hear you.
No, but it's like, all of this around, proxy voting, including the SEC for the first time charged a director. They basically said he can't be a director anymore because of lack of social independence. That we covered on our Proxy Countdown show, Parker Hannafin. Their board members, forget social independence, 100% of the board worked within 250 miles of one another. 40% of them were from Ohio alone, Ohio.
But we learned that they all had nice new Hyundai electric vehicles, and they kind of wanted to zip around.
That's true.
And,
made me feel better about it.
Yeah.
So proxy voters, you are utterly derelict in your responsibilities.
All right, that's number 2.
You're total assholes. Number 2. Number 3, Bill Ackman.
Oh, now we're talking.
Bill Ackman, right?
Was it just this year that the Harvard thing was the end of 2023, right?
End of 2023, the Harvard thing happened, but at the very beginning of this year, literally, I think like just after New Year's, his wife was outed as having plagiarized in her dissertation, and regardless, like he's holding Claudine Gay feet to the fire for the same exact thing that his wife did.
She's gone, yeah.
But Bill Ackman. That story broke from Business Insider, and Bill Ackman called board members of Business Insider who he was personal friends with, the co-CEOs of KKR. He knew Joe Bay. He knew Henry Kravis. He called them because they own Business Insider and said, "How dare you?" And of course, Business Insider then did a review, and they apologized to Ackman. And they said they need to revamp their definition of what plagiarism is. And then they waited. And then like 5 months later, when the Disney Nelson Peltz thing's happening and Peltz loses, Bill Ackman's out there accusing Disney of leaking shareholder votes and undermining. He's just out there saying whatever the fuck he wants and doing what he wants. He's like Elon Musk style blowhard.
Elon's just better at it.
Elon's just bigger
well,
and
look,
better.
if it wasn't for the fact that he ousted the black woman head, the president of Harvard in 2023, Claudine Gay, who you just mentioned. If it wasn't for the fact that was 2023, I probably would be voting for Bill Ackman for asshole of 2024.
Fourth, the meritocracy.
Okay.
Do I need to go through the headlines about meritocracy?
I mean, give a couple, but you don't.
I
really
think
need
there's
to.
one that really sums it up to me. J.M. Smucker's CEO, J.M. Smucker.
Yeah.
His
Smuckers.
name is Smucker. His last name is
crappy,
Smucker.
the crappy jelly that has high fructose corn syrup in it. Yeah.
Yeah, run by a guy
Not just
named
fruit.
Smucker, right?
Because fruit itself is not sweet enough, I suppose. Yeah.
But it's run by a Smucker. Right? J.M. Smucker, CEO, says the family-run business is a meritocracy.
Yeah, I would
that
imagine
to me
so.
just sums the whole thing
I would
up.
imagine so, yeah.
But we had the DEI flip-floppers. All of the DEI stuff was
terrible.
basically framed around, meritocracy and don't sell gays to my kids, right? Like that was like the framing around these things. Vivek ran for president
based on that nonsense.
this year, based on meritocracy being his talking point.
Yeah, which is code for if you were to hire a person of color or a woman, it represents the fact that she is not as qualified as another candidate. Right.
I mean, including the Texas AG asking Boeing and Spirit Airlines to give them all their DEI policies so that they could trying to link the door plug incident with DEI, right? Like
it got so bad this year that one of the stories that we tagged for headliniest of the week was this headline: Captain's gender did not cause ship to sink, New Zealand minister says.
That's correct.
They actually had to announce this. Yeah.
They did say that. And I like this one. Meta created an AI advisory council that's composed entirely of white men.
Right.
That's another one. So
By Meta,
meritocracy,
you mean Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg. Meritocracy is smokescreen for anti-gay, anti-people of color. That's it. Don't let it fool you. If you hear the word meritocracy or excellence, you're just saying.
Well, let's not forget we ended the year the Trump's pick for the head of the Department of Education was Linda McMahon, who lied about her educational credentials in the past, right? She made up her degree. And so this is the meritocracy at work, right? She is now running the department. Going to run the Department of Education where she's lying about her own credentials.
But all the cabinet appointments are basically fake
all of them.
Meritocracy. And then finally, white guys. Sorry,
I feel part of this.
Me and you. But there were so many stories about Bumble basically ceded all its control to a white guy, and simultaneously now men can make the first move on Bumble, which is the whole point of Bumble. It was a women-owned, women-run, dating app. White men who are mistreated at work are more likely to notice and report harassment against coworkers. 70% more likely to report harassment if they were mistreated themselves. It's like we don't even notice things unless it happened to me. Like we have no ability to sympathize or empathize with any other human beings. It got so bad that there was a story why men get more credit than women for doing the same work, according to a business school professor, where a trans woman, before she transitioned, she had, went to conferences, colleagues perceived her as a man. They took her competence as a given. After her transition, she found that there were people who were, she said, here's the quote, "I remember going on a drive with a man. He assumed I couldn't read a map."
Okay.
She was a biology professor at Stanford, tenured.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And all she did was transition. And that was it. And then,
well, maybe they assumed because she went to Stanford that she would use GPS and not know how to read a map. Maybe that's why.
And then the final one in that category was Elon Musk suggests the government should be replaced by dudes with high testosterone.
Yeah.
And we actually covered how the fact is that women occupy less than a third of most boards, and their influence, the most important number, the higher the board size is, like the size of the company is, the less influence the women have. Mega cap companies, a man's influence is worth 1.8 times a woman, and at small cap companies is 1.7 times a woman. And even when they occupy more of the board, they get less of the influence. It does not make a difference.
Can I add an honorable mention to this list? Well, first of all, I'm surprised you didn't say the name Robbie Starbuck at all for your.
No, I'm trying to avoid it.
But
I don't think he's the thing, you know?
Can I add an honorable mention here? Is I'm going to point to the people in our own industry, on our own side of things, who purportedly have been fighting the good fight. But what about all the people in the ESG world on our side of things who are now sitting on their hands? Trump wins.
They're hiding.
Anti-DEI is a big thing. Where are those voices? Where are the anti-DEI voices? Where are the anti-ESG voices? Where is the voice after Trump wins? Everyone has gone quiet. It's like,
well, look, here's what happened, right? Like, we came from the ESG industrial complex to the extent that was a thing, right? It very slowly, from the time we started to the time we left, it was very slowly absorbed by massive institutions, the MSCIs of the world, but like Morningstar, but Sustainalytics, and that's the data side. On the other side, you had investment banks like building ESG products. You had BlackRock doing ESG stuff. Like it basically got co-opted, right? But when it got co-opted, you had people who were making. You're not talking about millions of dollars a year, but you're talking about, $100,000, $200,000 a year, careers that effectively were able to stand up and say DEI, and that's an investable thing.
Yeah.
And then as soon as there is even a voice, a whisper of, somebody doesn't like, I actually kind of don't like gays, right? Like, Tractor Supply, we're not so gay anymore. As soon as there's a whisper of it, then now you have career risk. So every ESG person I meet basically has been telling me that they can't do anything. They can't say anything anymore. They can't do anything. It's unbelievable. Yeah. People, stand up and say, you know why we do DEI? Because it makes fucking sense.
Yes, 2024.
I don't need to show you alpha, right? Like, what are you talking about? Alpha, like alpha, because... You prove to me having more men got you the alpha you get. Like, you're an idiot.
Yes. Now is not the time to give up. Just work on your talking points, work on your narrative, whatever you have to do. But now is not the time to
baby.
Now's not the time to silence yourself. You're making it way too easy. Or how about this? You now have a growing list of they're happening now all the time, unfortunately. I think Nissan just announced that they're dropping their DEI program. How about you just have you have these very basic idiotic rules that you live by, which is like, if a director attends less than 75% of all meetings, we will vote against them. Great. How about you vote against every director on every board that votes against a DEI plan, no matter where they sit. Every board they sit on. Every board. Why don't you do something now? Really, honestly, like, now is not the time to be quiet. I don't understand this reaction of just like shutting up and letting people like Robbie Starbuck and Elon Musk and these people speak for you? Do you really want them to speak for you? I don't understand this, honestly. And as our data has proven, just having women on the board is a good first step, but those women need to have power on these boards. They need to have leadership roles. Yeah. They need to be on a path towards being promoted for bigger positions, not just like... A lot of the C-suite, we're seeing their chief legal officer or their head of human resources, and these are not paths to the CEO position. Shout about that. Talk about that. Let's make them pass to the CEO.
You can't be sitting back and saying, well, Roz Brewer was the CEO. She was not there was a shadow CEO over the executive chair who owns 16% of the company. Like you have to know that it's not about body count. Not to mention the fact that all of the research shows that now you're going to, as you alienate women, Black people, Hispanic people, gay people, every person who sort of sits outside the majority white, corporate complex. That is a massive talent pool. They are more educated. That we know, like the research shows that like having more diverse viewpoints, which the conservatives co-opted that idea. They said there's no diverse viewpoints. You're not allowing conservative viewpoints.
Right.
Well, you're not allowing any diverse viewpoints. Are you kidding me?
As much as I hate that perspective, it is just their perspective. I don't begrudge them their horrible perspective. It doesn't mean that we have to shut up now.
Yes, correct.
Recontrol the narrative. Seriously.
So those are your options. Your options were Sam Altman, proxy voters, Bill Ackman, meritocracy, and white guys.
Actually, this is going to be easy for me. I mean, they're all great candidates, certainly. But I'll go right to the issue at our company and in our world. And I'll go right to the proxy voters.
Yes. All right.
Because
I agree.
Because I think what the disheartening thing we've seen over the last few years, starting with, around the murder of George Floyd, is that proxy voters themselves are shutting up. Like the support for ESG proposals has gone way down.
The mirror policies coming out of the proxy advisors.
Right. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street have all given up. They're not only are they pulling out of climate pledges, but they're just giving up in general. So this has got to be my asshole of the year. It's not the time to give up. Not the time.
I mean, I can't fathom how you continue to vote. I mean, if you fuse all of these things, right? If you fuse Bill Ackman, and they all have boards. Everyone, Sam Altman has a board.
Everything has a board. We're learning.
Like Bill Ackman, his publicly traded
National Fisheries has a board of
like
45 people. We learned.
There's all these boards out there that you have a say in if you are an investor. And still, we covered earlier this year, there are 69 companies in the U.S. that have 0 women on the board. Still, in 2024, Nathan's Hot Dogs had 10 women or 10 directors. They had 1 woman and 9 men and 0% influence for that woman. There are 0 people of color. We found Oglethorpe Power, which I labeled my favorite man company. The picture of their board literally was lifted from 1953. It's like 12 of the oldest, whitest dudes that you could possibly find. You can vote. Do a thing. I agree.
And
with
not
you.
only that, not only can you vote, but you can elevate your voting practices. What you have at freeflowanalytics.com is the ability to measure the power of the women on those boards. How about you just vote against the boards where women have less power than their actual physical presence?
I love this.
Right?
Yeah, I love it.
I love it. You don't have to stop thinking. It's not 2008. You can continue to evolve your strategies, your thought process, your talking points. You can try to control the narrative. You don't have to give up, is what I'm trying to say.
I love it. So I agree with you. Let's wrap up this show with headliniest and winners. We're not doing predictions. We're going to do a separate show for all.
Wow, you have a lot of headlinists.
Kind of. Like, I'm not going to really do them all.
I'm going to go quickly. I just picked the 5 that tickled me the most. These are the actual headliniest, the best headlines that we actually were winners during our Friday shows over the last year. The first is a classic. This is a quote from Robin Denholm. She's the chair at Tesla. The headline is, Elon Musk's $46 billion payday is not about the money, Tesla chair says. Classic. A second one, this is kind of in the line of what you're talking about with AI. Google helpless to stop its AI from recommending glue on pizza.
It's helpless.
I like that one. And then this third one is just, we had so many Jamie Dimon Says headlines, dozens, hundreds, so many.
I know, there was a lot.
So I just call it Jamie Dimon Says because it's clear that Jamie Dimon knows all. So
he just says
he just says
things,
stuff.
Yeah.
The fourth one is ESG is coming for your toilet paper. I have no idea what that means.
I love that. Yeah.
I do want to know, like, who is the. What does ESG look like in this case? Is it Larry Fink? Is it like the head of Sustainalytics? What is that? It's probably a woman, right? What does that person look like who's coming for your toilet paper?
What does ESG get out of having my toilet paper? Like, I have a dirty
a really
ass in
clean
ESG,
butt,
like
a really clean, probably really chafed
I mean,
too.
Really,
yeah. And finally, I don't know why I like this one. I just like the name. This made me giggle. I remember when we did it. Ex-Global Affairs head Nick Pickles resigns. I know it's stupid.
I know that literally is the stupidest headline.
I like Nick Pickles. What do you got?
Well, I actually don't have many more than you. I have, in the vein of anti-woke,
Yeah.
I pulled this one headline, and it really was what's in it also. So I'm going to do a quick recap, but it was a definitive list of woke and non-woke foods.
Right, I remember this one. Yeah.
And we went through, including just a refresher, beans. What do you think? Beans?
Well, I would think they're not woke. I mean, they've been a staple of diets forever, right? Beans.
Incorrect. They're woke.
Yeah, right. Now, see, I'm already lost, right?
But baked beans were not woke. So I love the idea that you put it in the oven for 30 minutes and it goes from
you add a
woke
little sugar
to not
too.
woke.
There's a little sugar in there.
It's really great. Potato chips were not woke if they're regular potato chips or salt and vinegar, but if they're any other flavor, they're considered woke.
Or probably if you take out all the chemicals and they're natural, they're probably woke, right? Because chemicals is not woke, but removing chemicals is woke.
But removing chemicals, all natural
hurting
would be woke.
people
Good point.
is not woke, yeah.
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti is that,
Spaghetti.
I mean, that's got to be the non-wokiest thing ever, right? I mean, we're talking about.
No, you're wrong. That's woke.
I don't want to cast any aspersions on Italy, but let's not forget that they were fascists. I mean, they fought with the Axis.
They still kind of are.
Yeah,
they're still
I'm just saying
14% fascist.
So they're not woke. They're not woke in Italy.
No, so spaghetti.
Why is spaghetti woke? Why?
But you put the spaghetti in a can and it's not woke.
Why?
This is according
Why?
to the list. I'm just
Why?
telling you what's on the
Okay,
list.
all right.
I'm just telling you. And
Remember,
then finally,
and this is a real thing. This is from the New Zealand Herald.
This
New
is
Zealand Herald.
I didn't make any of this
Yeah.
up. Finally, my favorite thing, quinoa.
Yes. Well, that's obviously woke.
Definitely. But
Yeah.
if I say quinoa and I say it wrong, they
So if you're
said
dumb
it's
or
slightly less
ignorant.
woke, but still woke.
So
I love
ignorance. I guess that makes sense. Ignorance, because to me, woke just represents knowledge, really, just like knowing, right?
Knowing something. Yeah,
You're
So
aware. Yeah.
If you don't know how to say quinoa and you say quinoa,
Okay, all right, there
you're
you go.
slightly less
Well,
woke, but you're still woke because you're getting quinoa. Right?
If anyone should be surprised, that's probably a good foreshadowing from the New Zealand Herald, because the right wing party has now taken over New Zealand. One of our favorite prime ministers, Jacinda Ardern. Jacinda
Ardern.
She is gone, and New Zealand now has new leadership there. So there we go.
Ardern or something. Yeah. So I only have a couple more. That was probably one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah,
I
I love it. A definitive list of woke and non-woke food. Definitive, yeah.
But I also had to go with Main man alarmed when everybody mocks his Cybertruck, flips him off.
Yes, that's the article from my local paper. Yes, I remember this one well.
I like that it's just one main man, like a main man. And then also in Cybertruck news, the Cybertruck faces another setback as it recalls more than 11,000 vehicles over its giant wiper.
Which forgive me, when I saw a giant wiper in a Tesla at headline, I thought they were referring to Elon Musk.
I know. I thought it was the greatest headline.
They're actually referring to. They're literally referring to a giant wiper that gets rain off of your windshield.
Yeah. Like I like the idea though that putting fingers in giant wiper hang out now.
Yeah.
Two more. NASA praises Boeing's stranded Starliner for managing not to explode while docked to space station.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
I like a headline that praises something that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like it didn't explode. Good for you.
Boeing needs a victory this year. That's its victory.
And then finally, this one's just ridiculous, but it made me laugh. Police warn residents to lock down houses as dozens of monkeys escape research facility.
I don't know why you like that one so much.
That was in North Carolina. I just like that, you're like sitting on your porch in North Carolina, like 14 monkeys just like stroll down the street, and you're like, there they go again. It was the second time it's happened in 5 years.
My winner, I'm going right to ESG is coming for toilet paper.
I
just love it.
Adjacent to that,
yeah, it provokes a little bit of fear. I love it. It's great.
I'm going with main man alarmed when
Okay,
everybody
all
mocks
right.
his
So
Cybertruck.
we got a tie.
It flips him off. I think
Put it
that
on
one's
LinkedIn.
better.
Put it on LinkedIn.
Who won the year for you?
Finally,
Give me a winner, and I'll give you a winner. We'll go back and forth.
Well, okay. I go back and forth. Okay, again, I just picked actual winners from all of us. Things that just made me feel good. First one for me, of course. Jewish climate scientist Claudia Sheinbaum elected as Mexico's first female president. What the F? Yeah. I was just saying someone today who was lamenting the fact that that there's no progress in the world and everything's terrible and we're going to hell. I said, Mexico elected a Jewish climate scientist who's a woman. A woman.
Yeah. They can do
Mexico,
it.
our neighbor.
I picked Proxy Voters as the winner of the year. Because free float analytics became free this year.
Oh, I have that one too. I have free float becoming free this year too.
80,000 current directors up there with performance metrics. If you're a proxy voter, this is the year for you. You could have gotten all the data, and it's like a whole bunch of the data anyway. It's free.
This is a nod to Ari, the data queen. She had women's basketball in all caps with 6 exclamation points.
Yeah, that's wow. That one's good. Yeah,
So good it prompted a
wrong button. Yeah. I had our clients.
Oh,
Free float clients
Sure.
from the Gates Foundation's asset manager Cascade to Fidelity. Free float's clients get all the historical data. They get knowledge maps. They get connectivity data.
They get our ear.
They actually have us combing through it. They say, what do you see with
Ad
this?
hoc
I'm interested
research,
in this. What's
ad
that?
hoc data. Yeah.
It's basically having an analyst at arm's length with total objectivity deep in the data. We're working on lobbying data. We got nonprofit boards now. We got diversity data coming in. It's expert findings.
and
our
unlike-
clients are fucking winning. That's what I'm saying.
Unlike some of our peers, we're not giving up. We're not gonna strip like DEI out of our conversation, ESG out of our conversation. We're not gonna talk less about women in leadership or people of color in leadership. We're not gonna do any of that stuff.
I had somebody tell when somebody like was looking at our data and they're like looking through and saying like, oh, what do you do? How do you do it? And they were kind of vetting all of us. When I showed them all their stuff, they said, this is amazing. And then they said, well, how much does it cost? We're trying to replace ISS. How much does this cost?
Yeah.
And I gave them a price, and they said, holy shit, we can not only cut the cost from ISS because we're just buying ISS because it's the only thing, but we're getting better information. And they said, the minute our contract is up with ISS, we're all over you guys. Like we're getting that all the time.
And you get access to actual analysts who will talk to you and work out problems with you.
Pick up the phone.
Where are we here? Where are we?
Our
clients.
You're on your turn.
How about Chancellor Kathleen McCormick, first woman to lead Delaware's Court of Chancery?
I like that too.
Good reading, by the way. Her decision against Elon Musk's pay is, if you're interested in corporate governance or anything we talk about here, it's great reading. It's very informative.
It really was good.
Yeah.
It was a good decision. I have Damien, the Hazelnut Rollis,
Why?
as
I
a
showed
winner
up.
of the
Why?
year.
Why?
Never have you been more credible in your life than this
What does that
year.
mean? I don't know what that
I
means.
just think
For once.
the work you're doing at like Free Float, the shows that we've done, they're better than ever. You've never been more credible with anybody. I think you walk around with your friends at home and they're like, holy shit, when did you get to know so much?
It's funny. I'm searching my list. I still don't see your name on my list. I'm searching up and down.
I'm not on there. I'm not.
Although
more credible.
I did have one tongue-in-cheek one. I did have shitheads. You could qualify for that. And as an example, I had Robbie Starbuck.
You can't lump me in with Robbie Starbuck.
I mean, because let's be clear. I mean, I'm not gonna. They're not gonna be my ultimate winner of the year. But unfortunately, maybe the shitheads did win this year. But I'm trying to be positive here.
Well, I also had one that was not tongue in cheek. Capitalism.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. Basically,
definitely won the year. Yeah.
How about this one? The podcast, the Shareholder Primacy podcast with Mike Levin and Ann Lipton.
Wow.
How about that for a winner of the year?
Mike Levin, Ann Lipton.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten shareholder primacy, first of all, I've been hearing from Mike and Ann that they're going everywhere they go now. Everywhere, every conference they're at.
Where are they going? Yeah.
They're going to like law conferences,
Okay,
securities law
they're
conferences.
actual thinkers,
so it's like
actual thought
7
leaders,
people there, I think. But
How dare you.
everywhere they go to a conference, they're talking to like clients are doing their thing. And Ann doesn't have clients, but she's doing their thing. Someone says, I love the podcast to them. They said everywhere they go.
Well, tell them to send us a check for $400,000.
No, that's not what we do here.
No,
we do everything
I would take the check, though.
for nothing.
And finally, last one on my list is, did I just cut you off? Did you want to go next?
No, you finish yours and I'll finish mine.
How about the company? How about a publicly traded company? I'm primarily thinking about this incredible ad campaign that is right up our alley. That's the Too Many Dicks ad campaign. Elf Beauty.
ELF, yeah.
Yeah. Is it ELF or is it Elf? I don't even know.
I think they
I
go
should
by
know this.
ELF, but I don't actually know.
But they had the wonderful, both funny and informative ad campaign called "Too Many Dicks," referring to there are too many
Was a
men
great campaign.
named Dick or Richard on publicly traded boards, including their own. They have a dick, don't they, on their board?
They don't anymore, but they did. When
Okay,
they
they did
put that
have
out.
a
Yeah,
dick.
they did have a dick.
Yeah.
I'll wrap us up. Let's get out of this show.
Yeah, please,
that
please.
wraps up the year. Whoops! I gotta do the. I gotta do the actual. I'm having problems with my buttons. Nonprofits who are working with companies on all this investor stuff, who's trying to push companies to do things like the follow thises of the world, right? We worked with a half dozen nonprofits this year who needed data to influence the companies, and we gave it to them. So much so that going into next year, our big change is we are starting our own nonprofit so that we can give people the data for free through the nonprofit. We can work with nonprofits. We can work with foundations, family offices. We can work through those people to influence companies. The real winner here, I don't know if you're noticing a theme, is everybody who worked with Free Float during the year. That's the real winner.
And now is not the time to silence yourself. Let's find better strategies for 2025. Let's fight back harder.
I like your optimism. That's it. That's the year 2024. That's Hazelnut Rawlis. I'm your AnalystHole Matt Moscardi. We are Free Float. We're coming back next year in 2025.
Next year, are we? Really?
Next
coming
year.
back. Oh, this isn't it. I thought this was it.
Well, that would be great, but no. With predictions, more shows,
Ooh,
more
I love
stuff,
predictions.
more data.
We're going to look back
keep it
at
hot.
2024 predictions, and we're going to create some 2025 predictions.
I love all those things that you just said. Until then, goodbye.